Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Harrison's Garage. I'm Harrison, and today we are going to be upgrading the factory fog lights. And to do that, I've chosen the Diode Dynamic Stage Series 3-inch LED pod light. And I've got the kit from CJC Off-Road. They sell a really nice kit that will allow you to put in these aftermarket pod lights in the factory fog location and make it look as factory as possible. So they've sent out everything you're going to need to do that. Obviously, the first thing is the lights and then bracketry. We'll get into those in a minute. One thing I wanted to touch on first was the sort of factory bezels that CJC will send you now. You can also buy these directly from any kind of a Mopar dealer, but they send it all at once and they're not really charging you any money on it. They're not making any money on these bezels. They're sending out this stuff later. So, okay, this one is your sort of outer bezel. Obviously the light will sit in here. This is the bezel on the truck that would normally come with a tradesman, or I guess a tradesman with fog lights if it has it, or a bighorn. Typically the Laramies, the limited Longhorns, they have the sort of the slotted light that's a narrow light that runs along the length of it. So you're going to need to replace your trim panel if you're like me and you have a limited a Laramie, a limited Longhorn, that type of thing. So this is the outer bezel. It's got the right side, and you got the left side over here. Now, don't need that. Everything again is coming straight from CJC, all in part of the kit. The next piece of bracketry you'll need is this guy, and it's going to go on the inside of the bumper. And this will hold the pod lights in place to the inside of the bumper. These exterior light brackets, they don't actually do anything structurally. They just cover up the light and make it look flush and factory. They also hold your parking sensors. Two brackets. Now, in addition to these guys, you're going to need an additional bracket. And this is going to come from Diode Dynamics, also part of the CJC kit. Now these will hold the lights in place. The Stage Series lights in place. Let's pull out the lights now. And this is what the actual light looks like. So it's got a very nice fog beam pattern. You got the heat sink in the back. You got your factory cables there. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about right now is why I went with Diode Dynamics over Baja Designs. If you guys remember, if you were with me long enough, from the first Ram I had, the white one, I had a Baja Designs fog light, and it was marketed as a fog light, but it's really just a pod light. The lens on that particular light that was in that truck was more of a sort of a driving combo lens. It shot light everywhere. This lens is a fog lens, meaning it's not going to shoot light above a certain cutoff line. It won't blind drivers as long as it's aligned correctly. That's what they call, I guess that's why they have this SAE box checked. It's sort of SAE compliant in terms of the lens. And then as far as the output, I went with the middle of the road one. I think it's the Sport. It was like 5,640 lumens or something. So very, very bright, but again, it's going to be a fog distribution lens. The other reason why I went with this light over Baja Designs is that these lenses are interchangeable. I wasn't sure if I'd want amber or white. Now I love the look of just the white light as I look at the truck, but in terms of how good I can see from my truck while driving it, amber and fog is a little bit better. So I'll have to test these guys out. If I have a reason to, I can swap them out. They're 30 bucks a piece. It's not going to break the bank, and it allows me that flexibility to do that. Now, I should say Baja Designs does offer a fog light lens since I purchased my last Baja Designs pod light. They now have a fog light lens, but it doesn't have the flexibility to change out colors as far as I'm aware, at least not very easily. And it is also a much higher price point if you do opt for their fog light lens. So that's the light. And again, this is the mounting bracket. It's fairly straightforward how this looks like it'll line up. You just thread this over, line it up with your holes here, and then this backing piece will, I assume, mount to these holes in this guy, although it looks like it's backwards. Mount to these holes here. So I'm going to go ahead and work at getting this all assembled, and then meet back up with you when it's time to go under the bumper and swap out the lights. Okay, I have the lights mounted in these sort of plastic brackets from Diode Dynamics, or CJC, I'm not sure which. And doing that was pretty easy. You just drop these nuts into this slot here before lowering this bracket over the top. And then, so once you got the nuts dropped in, lower the bracket over the top, grab your Allen bolt and your washer, string it through, and just give it, tighten down. And then we're ready to go ahead and head over under the truck and get it installed. Okay guys, I've gotten the left factory fog out, so I guess it's oriented like this in the truck. There's a tab here on the top that this is where the wire harness goes. We're gonna have to pry this out and transfer it over to the other bezel. That is one way you will be able to distinguish the left and right bezel. The left bezel will have this thing at the top with these two holes for the tab. The right bezel does not. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this out and transfer it over first. Go ahead and get either a trim removal or lawnmower and pry bar, something like that, to get this pulled out and swapped over. I have one of these tools. It's very handy for these sort of trim pieces that are not visible. I just go ahead and work it free and pull it loose. Okay, once you have it pulled loose, obviously just go ahead and swap it over. Make sure you have it oriented the correct direction. And that would be this way as opposed to this way. We're going to put this in the same direction we found it. Just push it through. There we go. So that's in place now. Go back to the factory mount here, and we're going to take these 4 7mm mounting bolts out. So go ahead and just back those out real quick. Now we no longer need either of these, but don't just chuck them away because you never know how these are going to work, so hold on to them for the time being. Okay, now we can take our factory mount for the left fog light that we're going to be using, and then mounting our new fog light into it. So go ahead and get oriented. This is sort of the way it will go. Now, this new housing, you're only going to be reusing 3 of those 4 screws. This one is just an alignment peg. Go ahead and lay it over the top. Get your bolt started. Okay, so now we have the light mounted in the bracket, and you'll see I've got a pretty severe downward tilt to it. Simply because I don't know how far down I need to put it. I'm going to mount this in the truck and then sort of play around with it. And I figured I've got quite a lift, so I'm going to need to adjust for that. So I'm not just shooting straight out, 8 feet high. So I do have the ability to simply go in here, loosen this bolt, and lift and lower as needed. Okay guys, I am under the truck now. I've got the Diode Dynamics light mounted and installed. Haven't yet wired it up. I will say I definitely forgot how much of a pain in the butt mounting this bezel back into the bumper is. The way they've designed it, these guys here are slotted in, and you have to kind of push them forward into the slot while tightening, but also at the same time push this plastic bezel rearward. So you definitely need somebody standing on the other side pushing towards the bumper in order to tighten this in and snug it up nice and flush to the bumper, which takes a little bit more time if you're by yourself, so I just have the wife come out and help me with that. But the lights themselves are not exactly the same interface on the plug as the factory interface. You'll see here it's a 2-prong. These lights are a 4-prong. However, from Diode Dynamics, you do get the 4-prong to 2-prong conversion, You'll also notice this little leg here, which I'm not going to be utilizing. This is for an amber running, daytime running light backlight. And I have no interest in that, so we're just going to ignore that one. But for the time being, we are going to plug in our 4-prong to the light here. I think that's in. If it's not in, we'll find out when we go turn it on. And then we will simply plug in the factory harness here to the, I guess, adapter that they bring over, that they brought, that came with these lights here. So let's go ahead and plug that in. Okay, got that plugged in. I think it's not immediately obvious which orientation this plug is. But let's go ahead and test this out and see if we have light coming out of this pod now. All right, guys, I thought I would come out and stop halfway through this job for 2 reasons. One is late, and I only have time to do that one tonight. And this one I will get to tomorrow. But I thought this was a unique opportunity to compare the 2 lights and just see for brightness and glare how they are. So come over to the factory light and just kind of drop down. You'll see the glare is going to hit kind of never, maybe right around here, real low, kind of squatting down. Before you really start to see that glare. If we just come over and isolate the factory light only, keep dropping down, and there's the glare, but it's also not very strong. I've noticed this light kind of throws a lot to the side. I think the glare hits a little bit here and a lot sort of squat down here, but that's about it. It's very kind of a weak light. Now come over to this light. It is a fog lens. There is less glare, but it's so much brighter. It's still very, very bright at this altitude. And I've got this pointed down, but you'll see as I come down here, it gets overwhelmingly more glare here at this squatted level. And then it's a little bit hard to see things sort of facing it that way. So if we come over here and look at the garage, I've got just the daytime running lights on, and you'll see sort of the cutoff line of the fog light there. And if we look to the left here, the cutoff is sort of much higher up here on this fence as opposed to, down here. Now, I am at a bit of an angle here on this drive, but I do have this guy angled as far down as I can get it. If I push it up, you'll see it's just way, way too high. So I'm gonna continue to run this angled, real tilt down here. Basically running it so that this bezel is contacting the plastic trim piece. And that should be where I need to run it. I may scoot the light a bit farther back in the housing and get a little bit more room for me to tilt it further down. But I think that's gonna be all right for the time being. So I'm gonna meet back up with you probably tomorrow when I've got this light install going. And then we can go ahead and take a look at the full finished result and see how much brighter it is with both fog lights on there. All right, guys, it is now the next evening. We left off last night looking at comparing the Diode Dynamics light to the factory light. I have since installed the passenger side light here. I thought I'd highlight a few things that I noted, a couple things I ran into. I don't know if my old 21 truck was this way or if this is new for 23. But I wanted to point out this really annoying corner right here. It was much more annoying for the removal of the factory fog light. The bezel surrounding the factory fog was much more, protruded much more around this bolt. It made using a tiny little wrench like this very, very difficult because the sort of rounded head kept running into the plastic bezel itself. The next best option, of course, would be to use something like a socket, which works well in theory, but there's no room between this metal box thing and this socket to get an actual socket wrench on that socket. So I ended up kind of removing these other 3 bolts, rotating the whole assembly up and out of the way a little bit, just enough to get my tiny crescent wrench in there so I could work it work it loose, and that took way too long. It seems like for no matter what project you get on one of these trucks, you know, no matter what it is, 40-minute install always comes, you know, 2 hours for some silly reason, like a bolt in a place there shouldn't be, or a protrusion in a spot it shouldn't be. Anyway, you'll get that done eventually. Just believe in yourself and it'll eventually come out. Now this is the factory harness, and we need to plug into this adapter, and I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera and then come back with you and explain the running light feature that these Diode Dynamics sort of fog lights also come with. Okay, I've gotten the factory light plugged in there. This does take a little bit of pressure to get the harness to go in. But what I wanted to explain now is this guy, and this is essentially a power line for a amber daytime running light. And they do send out a nice little harness here. This is meant to connect to some sort of a power signal on the vehicle. This goes into the receiving harness up here. What you're able to do is just run this presumably up somewhere into your headlight, you know, through your wheel well or something up that away there, and tie this into some kind of daytime running light signal on your headlights, and that would, you know, cause these guys to have an amber backlight function during the daytime for a daytime running light. I have no interest in an amber light, so I'm just leaving these here. I'm not plugging those in. I'm just going to tie them up. But if you wanted to do that, you definitely could. So let's go ahead now, clean things up, and test this out in the driveway. Okay guys, got them both wired up. I did actually end up putting that harness on backwards, and it didn't light up, so just hop under there, flipped it around, and it was good to go. And you'll see very bright on both this time. Been most impressed with how wide the throw is and kind of how low it is. Even though I am up a little taller, I've got them angled down, but they do illuminate pretty much right along this edge. And if we turn around, you'll actually see that it's throwing light all the way out to about here. So I was going to go ahead and take us around the block, just kind of show you that, and give you guys a sense for what these lights look like and how much brighter they are than the factory lights. Okay, I've got just the regular headlights on without the fog lights now. If I turn to the wheel to the left, it will illuminate the left fog here only. So there you go. Off, on, and that's so bright it goes beyond the A-pillar, or so the sort of range of throw is so bright that it goes beyond the A-pillar. So if I turn just the left one on, you'll see it goes all the way over to that back wheel on that car over there. So. And if we do the same on the right, you'll see it goes all the way over, right about there on the cutoff. So, and of course that's if you have them off, it'll just automatically kick it on when you're turning. But if you want it on all the time, you just press the fog button, and that's what it looks like with them on all the time, all the way over there, all the way over there. Now in terms of height, which I'm worried about in terms of glare, I'm going to turn them off, and you'll see that they don't really light up a whole heck of a lot more beyond the headlights. They do a little bit, I guess they do throw a little bit of sort of extra light above that main headlight line here, off in the distance, but it's not tons of light. And I am thinking that some of that is reflecting off of the road, because when I was out earlier testing these out, it was not quite so, I'll say it was not quite so intense in terms of how much light it was throwing vertically. But if we hop out here and just take a look, turn them off, and then turn them on again. There you go, it's a lot of light sort of right here and out to the side. So I'm hoping that glare-wise these are gonna be all right. Let's just go ahead, take it around, and I'll leave the fog lights set to just come on during the turns, so you can get a sense of how much light there is, you know, as we turn, how much light there is coming from each light individually. Now, in total, these two lights put out 5,640 lumens. And that's, of course, raw lumens, not like the light bar, where it's, you know, after optics over about 5,000. I guess now's a decent spot to do it. This is the fog light, so if we add the light bar, you can see it's much brighter, much more intense. But, so the fog lights you can now see way over to the left, way over to the right, and factory fogs are just nowhere near bright enough to give you that much light off on the sides. I mean, it kind of dimly lit the side of the road, but not nearly enough to see by. So I'm gonna go ahead, take us back to the house, and then wrap this up. All right, guys, that will wrap up this install video of the Diode Dynamics SS3 Sport Fog Pocket Lights. They do come in both a white and amber lens. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments below, DM me on Instagram. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.